In my spare time, I have been known to occasionally drink beverages. Yes, absolutely.
Have any of those beverages been Irishness? Hello and welcome to My Tiny Bottles, the project where I'm exploring my grandmother's legacy of miniature liquor bottles, one tiny bottle at a time. I'm your host, Tammy Coxon, and I am here in Northern Ireland in the lovely city of Belfast with my friend Brian. And I had an Irish bottle of something, and Brian's primary qualification for this tasting is that he is Irish.
It's true, I am.
But Brian, why don't you tell them more about yourself as well?
So I think a lot of things I do. We're here at a science fiction convention this weekend, so heavily involved in a lot of science fiction fandom pieces. In my day job, I work with research and education, giving internet access and a whole bunch of other things to universities in Ireland. So quite technical, and that is, giving me that avenue through to science fiction and fantasy and all of those other sorts of things.
Excellent. And in your spare time, you occasionally drink beverages?
In my spare time, I have been known to occasionally drink beverages. Yes, absolutely.
Have any of those beverages been Irishness?
I don't actually believe I've ever tasted Irish mist before. I do drink quite a lot of Irish whiskey and other whiskeys from other places, but no, Irish mist, I think this will be my first time.
Yeah, so Irish mist was really popular, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s. It's kind of in response to, if you watch the episode about this bottle, I talk about sort of the trajectory of Irish whiskey, which went from being the most popular whiskey in the world to having no one interested in buying it. And so there was a lot of excess Irish whiskey, and the makers were going, well, what can we do with this? And somebody said, well, what if we make a liqueur out of it? And this actually found a market, and quite a popular market, was really kind of sent all over the world.
I mean, it was certainly something that we knew the name of in, I suppose, the 90s when I started being aware of alcohol as a thing that was of interest. But it wasn't something that anyone was drinking in Ireland at that point in time.
I would say certainly by the 90s, it would have fallen out of favor, right? It started very much as a domestic Irish product, but then it went export and probably got abandoned here.
Yeah.
Lingered in the export market a little longer, then probably largely disappeared from the export market. Still does exist today. But we don't have a modern one to compare to it. We just have this old one, which I think is from the 1990s.
Yeah, I mean, I think that font, that look is very kind of Irish export alcohol in that period of time. And I think they were really trying to rebuild again. It was the beginnings of the rebuilding of the Irish whiskey market at that point in time. Right. That looks very 90s to me, certainly.
So this is from Tullamore. So starts actually out of Tullamore Dew. That's the whiskey that initially goes in here. At this point, not anymore. It's just whatever by the 90s. This is, I'm sure if Desmond Williams was here, the guy who created it, he would be appalled by me saying it's basically Drambuie, but with Irish whiskey instead of Scotch. Right? So it's a honey, heather honey, and Irish whiskey and some herbs and spices and things like that.
I mean, that was the thing, to try and make things the sweeter piece at that point.
A little bit more appealing.
Before we went back to our whiskey roots, I suppose. And indeed, Tullamore, very important in that. Kilbeggan, Connemara, all of those whiskeys, which are now much more popular.
Yes, right. They've all come back. So the rise and fall of Irish whiskey and then rise again is this really fascinating story. All right. Well, I think we should just kind of dive in and see what we've got here. I'm going to guess it's held up pretty well. It's opened nicely. I don't know how full it was, right? This is probably about as full as it ever was.
Yeah.
Maybe a smidgen higher.
More,
I don't think we will have had a lot of evaporation. This looks like kind of typical level of syrupy for a 1990s liqueur. All right. So I'd like to give it a little sniff here.
It certainly smells whiskey-ish.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting the whiskey up front. And Irish whiskey, do you drink Scotch as well?
I do, yeah.
So how would you characterize Irish whiskey as compared to Scotch whiskey?
So, and again, actually, Connemara, for instance, that I mentioned would be one of the peatier Irish whiskies.
Which is very unusual.
Very.
Irish.
I mean, most of what I drink is a bit more this kind of, my go-to just if I'm just having a normal whiskey, would be Powers.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of similar kind of sweeter bits in this. So yeah.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit of whiskey on the nose, some sweetness, some herbalness, definitely, but a sharp alcoholic burn.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
So not too worried about alcohol evaporation.
What is it? It's 37.5?
35%.
35, okay.
So I think it might have been 40% at one time and then dropped down to 35.
So definitely liqueur levels, not with, it's
well, it's almost a full strength spirit, but a little bit
I think
below
you see very little that isn't 40% or thereabouts these days, for sure.
But for a liqueur, 35 is actually fairly high.
Yeah.
All right, shall we go in and taste?
Sláinte.
Yeah, Sláinte. That's perfectly pleasant.
Yeah. I mean, as you say, it's sweet. Definitely a bit of a burn there, but not too much at all.
Yeah, you can see why this would be so popular.
Yeah.
I could totally see sitting around.
You could drink this very easily.
Probably too easily.
Indeed.
Which is a little true of Irish whiskey in general.
Yes.
Many of them tend to be a little bit softer, a little bit smoother, just kind of a little more approachable for some people than Scotch whiskey or bourbon or rye. And so it's gotten that reputation as a very smooth and easy drinking whiskey. And that's definitely translating.
And I think that the 35 rather than the 40% makes a really noticeable difference there in drinking it neat as obviously we are, because of course you would. And yeah, it's not too sharp at all.
No. And just like really, really pleasant. It's sweet, but it's not too sweet. It's not cloying or sticky.
No, not at all.
Almost has a brightness to it, which is kind of impressive given this is a 30-mumble-year-old bottle.
Yeah. It's held up remarkably
well amongst I've definitely had worse things, that's for sure. Wow. All right, that's Irish Mist. Kind of makes me want to seek out the modern one, but a lot of these older liqueurs didn't
translate well.
Don't always translate well. Do you feel like you get much Irish whiskey out of this, or do you mostly get the herbs?
I could really, again, that smell certainly and that taste. There's as I said, Powers or was it? I mean, again, Paddy, very very commercial Irish whiskeys. There's certainly.
And if I'm remembering correctly, I think for a while it did actually move to Powers. Like that's what the whiskey was for a while was sort of Powers had it after Tullamore closed. Then it kind of moved to Powers. And now I think it's owned by Heaven Hill in the United States.
Okay. But no, there's definitely, it's not that, it's not the same because it's not that, but you can definitely tell there's a core Irish whiskey ingredient in there. And that kind of smooths the sweeter piece. So for sure, I mean, there's no question what its component parts and antecedents are at that point in time.
Well, this is one of the yummiest things I have to say.
I'm glad this is the episode I got to,
It's very Moorish. I'm like, oh yeah, I could drink that whole bottle. It's not that there's a lot in that bottle. Well, if you'd like to learn more about Irish Mist, please do, go click the things that show up around here to find that episode on mytinybottles.com. You can also leave a comment. I'd love to hear your stories about Irish Mist if you have any connection to it. Leave a like, leave a share. You can find me online at mytinybottles.com and also at mytinybottles on Instagram and Facebook and on Tammy LC on Blue Sky. Ryan, if people want to find out more about you and the things you do, where should they go?
Yes, so I'm on Blue Sky as well. Natural 20. I play a lot of role-playing games. Mastodon as well. And what I mentioned earlier, the science fiction convention, we're bidding to bring a big convention, the World Science Fiction Convention, to Dublin in 2029. So if you're interested in such things, dublin2029.ie is the website where you can find out more.
And you should definitely find out more because Dublin 2019 was a heck of a good time. And I know Dublin 2029 will be as well.
We very much hope so.
You'll have to top
up. A little bit more. Gosh,
I topped you off. See, this is the issue. I topped him off so we'd be ready for this, and then he drank it.
I drank it. When you ask me more questions
because
about it.
But it is that Moorish.
It very much
just
is.
Want to drink it. Sláinte.